Hi everyone, it's me, Sandy Cruz of Sandy K Nutrition, Health and Lifestyle Queen. For years now, I've been bringing to you conversations about wellness from experts from all over the world. Whether it be suggestions in how you can age better, biohacking, alternative wellness, these are conversations to help you live your best life. I want to live a long, healthy, and vibrant life. Never mind all those stigmas that as we reach midlife and beyond, we're just going to shrivel up and die with some horrible disease. Always remember, balanced living works. I really look forward to this season. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Sandy K Nutrition, Health and Lifestyle Queen. Today, I'm going to talk all about the science and soul of love. And the reason I decided to do this is not for any other reason except for I thought of this because Valentine's Day is coming up. And by the time that this podcast comes out on all platforms, it will be a few days away from Valentine's Day. And I wanted to give you a very different perspective on love that is rooted in science and soul. So here we go. So I'm going to frame this in such a way that it's not about the relationship status and it's not, performative like a Hallmark holiday. I want to talk about love as something that your body does. Also, it is known to be one of the highest frequencies, love is. And it's something that your nervous system recognize, your heart field can broadcast, and it's something that your soul can remember. So it is the science and the soul of love. Today, I'm going to weave in what the research actually shows about love in the body, how our early wiring as, very young children shapes our capacity for love. There's a lot in there. And how we can clear some of the blocks to love. And I am going to bring in some of Brenda Ferrugia's work. I talk about her all the time because knowing her has changed my life, not because I'm an affiliate of hers or I get paid or anything of that nature. It's because the practices and the work that I've done with her have really reshaped my life. So I'm going to bring in some of her work. And I'm also going to bring in a little bit about how pets are one of the purest conduits of love that we get to experience in this lifetime. And many of you who follow me know I had two dogs. One of them passed away in 2022. And I still have one, and I'm going to bring her as a special guest. So you're going to get to see her. But I do believe that pets in our lives are like these silent messengers and conduits to more love. I'm going to start with the science. The science is really about the physiology of love. When we are in this state of love, which is a real and a grounded state, we see consistent patterns in our bodies. Oxytocin goes up, the bonding hormone. So, oxytocin is a hormone, it's the bonding hormone involved in trust, caregiving, and attachment. And there are many ways that we can increase oxytocin. You probably already know this that oxytocin is very high when a mom is nursing her baby. And there are other ways that we can increase oxytocin. Of course, if you're my age, you're not nursing a baby. So you're like, how do I get more oxytocin? So obviously, touch is one way, cuddling, hugging. This is so interesting in a male female relationship when the husband or the spouse or the partner, whatever, experiences touch from his female spouse or partner, that actually can help increase the bond for him. Whereas with a woman, this is so interesting. She needs that eye contact for that connection, right? It's so interesting how men and women are different. Massage is big, eye contact, I already said that. Acts of kindness, petting animals, laughter, music, exercise, all of those things can increase oxytocin naturally for you. So you don't have to be nursing a baby. So, cortisol, when you are in this state of love, it's very difficult for you to also be in a state of stress. You can't, I'm saying very difficult. I think it's impossible. I don't think that you can be in a true state of love and coherence and have a high stress. I mean, unless it's sexual activity, then maybe. So cortisol goes down, and that stress hormone that keeps us in fight, flight, or freeze, it will go down when you're in that love state. Vagal tone. You hear a lot about the vagus nerve. So there are all these different devices to support vagus nerve stimulation. There's different exercises you can do, like humming and things like that, to help stimulate that vagus nerve. So, the vagus nerve supports calm, social engagement, and emotional regulation. Heart rate variability. Okay, this is a big one. Heart rate variability becomes more coherent in a state of love. So, this is a marker of resiliency and flexibility. A lot of you, so I use the Ultra Human ring, and I personally love it better than any other sleep tracker. And heart rate variability is kind of one of those things that I often struggle with. And I find myself, since menopause, I'm more often in that state of fight or flight. And a lot of women in my age category are in that state. So you have to be more intentional to work with, what works for your body in terms of being able to lower that cortisol or actually just rebalance it. Okay. And I've recorded a lot of podcasts about this, like Women in Fear, just recently. So go and check out all of my podcasts. Sandy K Nutrition, Health and Lifestyle Queen, everywhere. It's on all podcasting platforms, over 6 years now and over 1.4 million downloads. And it's all about science and soul. So go find me there. Follow me on Instagram. I'm very active there. Inflammation, it tends to decrease over time in people who have stable and supportive relationships. Now, I'm going to get into this because it's not about the other person per se. Of course, like if you're in an abusive relationship or anything like that, that's a totally different scenario. But a lot of what you create comes from within you in order to have that stable relationship. So, love in the body, what does it look like? It looks like softness, and it looks like slower breathing. You're not breathing from your chest up, you're breathing deeply. You have a more regulated heart rhythm. And there is a quieter threat system in the brain. So you're not always jumpy, shortness of breath, that elevated state. And I've talked about that numerous times. And this is why safe love, it feels like you're just exhaling. It's like a really good feeling. Who doesn't want to be in that? So, attachment, let's talk a little bit about attachment. And the research shows that our earliest relationships literally shape our nervous system. If you want to dig deep into traumas or early bonds, early relationships, I highly recommend the book It Didn't Start With You by Mark Wolin. I actually recorded a podcast with him. It's all about generational traumas, things like that. I'd look into Gabor Mate's work as well, because these are important bonds and relationships. However, I am going to say this: they don't necessarily shape who you are. And a lot of times we can use our upbringing as an excuse for why we are the way we are. The reason I say that is one of the biggest influences in my life is my dad. And I have never experienced anything but support and love from him. He's actually going to be 89 in April. And his story is he was born and his mother died at childbirth. So he never knew his mom. He was born in 1937, very, very poor farming family. He ended up having a stepmother later. And, if I look at the way that he was brought up, everything should have been wrong in his life in terms of his relationships. And he did everything different. So if you do have, and I'm not saying that there isn't trauma from that, because he said to me in the past, he never knew anybody to say, I love you. There was no time for that. They were so poor. There were so many children. They were cold, hungry. But if you feel like you need to work on that, you can. You can. But don't use it as an excuse to not welcome love into your life or patterns, because you can break those patterns. And I'll get into that. So the brain builds templates for what love feels like, whether it's safe, chaotic, conditional, absent. My father's case, it was absent. And those templates influence how we choose partners, how we react to closeness, and how we handle conflict. So, when we talk about love, we're not just talking about romance, we're talking about how your nervous system learned to do connection. And sometimes people come into our life as teachers. And I do believe that my mom, who had a lot of love to give, came in as a teacher for my dad. And they've been married for, I think this year in 2026, it'll be 63 years. Like I said, as humans, we can make excuses our entire lives on why we haven't had the love that we feel we deserve, why love hasn't come into our lives. But often it's a very complicated situation. And I don't think that we can blame it only on our upbringing. Heart focused research shows that when we feel a genuine appreciation, care, or love, our heart rhythm becomes smooth and ordered. The brain shifts into more of an integrative and less reactive state. This is science. I mean, this is real, but why you feel that state, you kind of have to look within on why you feel that state. So, for example, you can say, when your partner does A, you are in a more reactive state. Now, is A because of him, or is A because of you and something you need to work on? So, this is something only you can figure out. Okay. I'm not sure if I'm making that clear, but often, if it's something that makes you feel reactive and unloved, you need to see, is this person truly um, creating a situation whereby it's hurting me? Or is this something within me that I need to work on, that I am cultivating this state? Our electromagnetic field becomes more coherent, and other people's systems can actually sync to that when we are in that um, heart brain coherence. So, I'll give you an explanation of that. So, for example, let's say I'm really stressed out about a situation and my spouse comes home. Often it's my field that he can feel right away, and he could feel that energy. If I'm cooking dinner, I've got the music going. I'm making a beautiful meal out of love, and he comes in that door and he senses that. That is called a heart brain coherence. He could feel that electromagnetic field from me, and it cultivates that whole environment to bring in more love. So, love is not just in your head, and it's in your heart, it's in your nerves, it's in your hormones, and it's in your field. I'm going to go on to segment 2, the soul of love, like what love is really underneath. Like, even if we can measure the hormones and the heart rhythms and all of that through science, it doesn't fully explain why love feels like recognition. It feels like home. It feels like being seen. It feels like belonging. And it feels like being held by something that's larger than you or the person who's holding you. On a soul level, love is remembrance of who you are in your essence. It's connection to others, to life, to something so much bigger. It's alignment between what you feel, what you say, and how you live. So when you're in that state of love, you're in alignment, you're in coherence with your life. You can't be feeling love and then being stressed out like a maniac or being really angry. You can't. You're in alignment when you feel love. It's also generosity, not self erasure. You're not erasing yourself, but it's this overflow of generosity that you feel. So, love is the opposite of fragmentation. It is the movement towards wholeness of yourself inside of you and between you and others. Let's get into why it's so hard for so many people. Most of us are not walking around in a neutral state. We're walking around with these old attachment wounds, nervous systems that are wired for threat, subconscious beliefs that love is dangerous, or I'm not enough to be loved, or I'll be abandoned again. Limiting and negative beliefs, that's huge. That's where Brenda's work comes in. Go check her out, sobrilliant.ca. And this is a powerful tool in the toolkit. And I touched on that a couple minutes ago. Like, is it you, me, or is it him or her? Right. And often, we label this as a projection. We project a lot of what we are or what we feel or what we hold onto those that we love, except for our pets. They're more of that conduit to help release any of this stuff that doesn't serve us. I'll get into that. So, beam therapy. I'm going to talk a little bit about beam therapy. If you want to know in great depth of what beam therapy is about, check out my podcasts with Brenda. I've recorded about this, and check out Brenda. So, bioenergetic emotional access method. It's designed to identify subconscious limiting and negative beliefs, trace them back to early experiences or inherited patterns, clear the emotional charge that's stored in the nervous system, and help the body um, to stop bracing against love and safety and connection It also helps to clear traumas. So, Brenda really helps clear that path to love of oneself first and clearing the negative and limiting beliefs that we hold within ourselves that might be that blockage to the love that we really, really want to cultivate in our lives and that we want to feel. We want to feel it from ourselves first. This type of work helps to loosen the old stories, soften those defenses, and create more internal space within ourselves. And I love the way Brenda talks about it. It's really creating more light within you and it's making you lighter. You see people who walk around with that harshness. They're holding a lot. And a lot of what people hold, they don't even know that they're holding it, which is why this type of work is so powerful. So now we're going to talk about pets and love in its simplest, purest form. Gracie, the dog, my dog, she actually is like a clown in our family. She is hilarious. She's funny and she's so affectionate. My dog before her was different. I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. Her name was Bella and she passed in 2022. She passed the last year that my daughter was at the hospital for sick children. My daughter would go for annual physicals up until she was 18. And she passed away that same year. And we got Bella in the middle of my daughter's two surgeries. My daughter was diagnosed with cancer at age 5. And the reason we got Bella was really to bring a little bit of joy and happiness in a very heavy time for us. So this is why pets can be so important. And I remember some people saying, "Are you crazy getting a puppy? She is Peppy or was Peppy. Are you crazy getting a puppy during this time? Your daughter was just diagnosed with cancer. You just broke your foot. I also broke my foot 2 days before." And I was like, something inside of me and my husband, we decided no, we needed to bring in some joy into our lives, into our family. And all those years, little Bella, she absorbed everything from us. And when she passed away, as I explained, it was the last year that my daughter was being released from the Sick Children's Hospital. And she died of an enlarged heart. See, I can get tears talking about this. She had congestive heart failure and she died of an enlarged heart and congestive heart failure. And I always say, those 12 years that she was alive, she absorbed all of our heartache and took away a lot of the pain that we felt. I mentioned oxytocin. So when you look into your dog's eyes, the oxytocin increases for both you and your dog. I'm going to speak a little bit about pets in general and dogs. So it's similar to a parent and infant bonding. This is probably why you see a lot of people who, once they become empty nesters, their dogs become their children. Unless they have grandchildren, then, they could have both, right? So petting a familiar dog, your dog, will lower your blood pressure, your heart rate, and your cortisol, and increase parasympathetic activity. So we love the body to be in a parasympathetic state. I've explained this in other podcasts. There's sympathetic, which is that always hard, always sympathizing with everything around you. That's the best way I always remember the difference. Because if you're sympathizing with everything around you, you're never going to be in a relaxed state. Parasympathetic is that flow state, that ease state. That's where you can digest, you can experience love. Okay. Because when you're stressed and crazy and frantic and frenetic, you're not going to experience love. People who live with dogs, especially those who live alone, often have lower all cause mortality and better cardiovascular outcomes over time. Pets can function as attachment figures. So it's really interesting that, they're like our safe base. And often they actually will feel distress when separated from us. We feel distress when separated from them. So the bottom line is that you can feel your whole body soften when your dog or your cat curls up beside you. And it's not just emotional, it's actually your nervous system recognizing safety, feeling love. On a soul level, I explained my soul purpose dog, Bella. She had a whole other purpose. Pets often will arrive at transitional times: grief, divorce, burnout, reinvention, sickness, as my dog Bella did. They hold a kind of unconditional presence that we rarely can experience with humans. They mirror our emotional state without judgment, and they teach us how to give and receive care. They teach us so much. They're not here to replace human love, but they're here to remind us of what feels love feels like in the body. What does it feel like? Simple, present, non-verbal, non-transactional. You don't have, and this is the whole thing about Valentine's Day. It's become very performative and transactional. Let me get you a bouquet of roses and let me go and buy you a box of chocolates. I mean, you could do those things, but really, love is not, that's not what love is about. And it's become this. And I think we need to look at it from a different perspective. One of the practices that I began a long time ago, my kids are now in their 20s, but when they were old enough to read and understand, I started to write them letters. Often I do this. Listen, it's always best if you can put pen to paper and handwrite it. There's something magical about handwriting a letter, but I get it. Sometimes it's easier to use a computer. So I started to do this many years ago. And what I do in this letter is I do a little review of the year on what I have seen in such beautiful growth in them in the last year. And then I talk about what I love about them. I then started to do this for my husband. I'll talk about a little year in review and then what I love about our relationship and about them. I also started to do this with my elderly parents because often our days are so busy that, we might drop in a quick, I love you, and that's it. But when you have these letters, I think it's a very powerful gift that surpasses any flowers, chocolates, presents. So I wanted to share that. So you can think of love in three layers. There's the body, which is the nervous system, the breath, the heart, the hormones, the beliefs, subconscious stories that you have, emotional imprints, the behaviors, how you show up for yourself, others, even your pets. And I want to weave in how important our health comes into play. Most of you who follow me know I'm a registered holistic nutritionist, and I went back to college very late in life, and my life pulled me in this direction that I needed to look at health in a holistic way. And while we can't predict everything that comes down the road for us, I do believe that when we pay attention to our health, then that's going to help us in being able to feel more love, because I've been sick before. I had cancer. I had my thyroid gland removed. There were times that I was really unwell, and it's very hard to feel love when you're not well. I mean, you could do it, but it takes more effort. So I always say try as best as you can to take care of your health, and it'll be easier for you to feel that vibration of love when you're healthy yourself. And that's health in body, mind, spirit, and soul. The body. Practices that increase vagal tone and heart coherence. You got to choose what resonates here to help your body. Breathing patterns that slow the system. I shared this in my podcast episode last week about how women's physiology changes at menopause, and perhaps we need to incorporate movement that is more in coherence with what our body needs and not the performative or aggressive movements. You can listen to that podcast, but one of my favorites, and I've been doing this every day for the last month, it's easy to incorporate and it's free, is Qigong. It really helps you get into your flow of healthy energy within your body and gentle stretching and all of that. So, the other way the body can regulate is moments of stillness with your pet, with your person, or even alone. Stillness is key. I've been doing this for so many years now, and I think I started, I mean, I've always liked to walk, but I started to really be more intentional with my walks to ensure that I get out in nature, that I do not have headphones on, that I am really paying attention to everything around me that's natural and beautiful, the sounds, the sights. That in and of itself can help you cultivate more of that higher vibration of love. So you want to clear, beliefs. I was talking about Brenda. You want to clear beliefs that might have those blockages to love in your life. That's where beam therapy comes into play. You can journal. You can do deep emotional work on those limiting and negative beliefs. So that will help to clear out those projections that, might even be hazy. You might not even realize that you're projecting, but if you do the work yourself, then you're going to catch yourself and go, okay, I'm projecting here. It's not that they're not giving me love, it's me, right? And then behaviors. You want to live in alignment with love. You want to ensure that you create boundaries, healthy boundaries that protect your nervous system. You want to choose relationships that feel like an exhale versus a constant activation, but refer to work that I mentioned with Brenda first to see that it's not coming from you, right? Because remember, a lot of the stuff is a projection that's actually coming from you that you need to work on. It's not about your partner. And if you don't do the work and love yourself first, no one's going to love you like you want. So I'm going to end this podcast with a few myths because I think this is always fun about pets. And I love this because my kids will throw these myths at me all the time and be like, Mom, they say. And this is really fun. So here's one. Dogs live longer if they sleep in your bed. And my rule has always been no animals in beds. And I will say, do you think this is truth or myth? A lot of you will go, if your dog sleeps in your bed with you, you'll go, it's true. But there is no evidence. However, co sleeping can strengthen attachment and reduce stress. So, again, always bio individual. In my life, dogs do not sleep in beds. Okay, here's another one, and it's fun. A dog's mouth is cleaner than a human's. So, that is false. A dog's mouth is not cleaner and has very different microbiome and everything. So you cannot say that a dog's mouth is cleaner than a human's. Dogs can sense bad people. This is an interesting one. A dog can read a nervous system, and it can feel like it's, mystical or whatever, but they can't read your soul. They can't read that kind of thing. But here's a good example. If you're that person that's always been afraid of dogs, let's say you got bit by a dog when you were a very young child, and anytime you go near a dog, your nervous system kind of kicks up and you might not even know it. A dog will likely be able to sense that. So it doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just means that they could feel some sort of nervous energy from you that you might not even know you have. If your dog follows you everywhere, they're just obsessed with you. It's not. It's false. It's just a secure attachment and a co-regulation that happens. So here's my closing. When I talk about the science and soul of love, I'm not talking about a fantasy. I'm not talking about performative. I'm not talking about you know, all the butterflies, although those are great to feel. But, when you've been married for um, over 25 years, you kind of, that whole young love, you know how a lot of people will say at my age, they'll be like, oh, young love. And you can still cultivate that. You can make that happen yourself. There are ways you can do that. Maybe that's for another podcast. Love is not something that you wait for. Love is a state that you begin with yourself. You rebuild it or build it within you. That's what love is. It comes from you. It's not you pulling it from everywhere and everyone else and what you do for everyone and that, oh, that gives that love feeling. Sure, it might make you feel good, but it always begins with you. And once your body kind of gets a hold of what that state is, you stop mistaking chaos for chemistry. You stop tolerating what hurts when something is really dysfunctional, and you start choosing what feels like that deep, quiet exhale, like I'm safe here. So that's what love is. It's in your cells, in your field, and it's in your life. And that's it. So I hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you did, please engage with my content, share it with somebody who might resonate with it. Give me a rating, a review on Spotify or Apple. And I thank you so much for being here, and happy Valentine's Day. Make it really, really count this year. Have a good week. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Be sure to share it with someone you know might benefit. And always remember, when you rate, review, subscribe, you help to support my content and help me to keep going and bringing these conversations to you each and every week. Join me next week for a new topic, new guest, new exciting conversations to help you live your best life.